Good morning, students. So we have come to the last topic of this chapter. So this talks about smoking, alcoholism, and AIDS. Okay. So I'll give just a brief idea about what is these three conditions. They are not actually, smoking and alcoholism are not diseases, but they are habits. Okay. So let us see what is smoking. Smoking is the habit of smoking is very strong. When you puff a cigarette hundreds of times each day for many years, people who have smoked for a long time find it difficult to stop. Okay, so they are so used to having a cigarette in their hands that it becomes a habit for them. Even if when they want to stop, they are not able to stop. So what are the signs of an addiction? Smoking as such may not be a very bad thing, but in India, we tell that smoking is bad, drinking is bad, but in Western countries, it's a part of life. Nobody tells anything because it's a personal choice, they say. It's a personal freedom. Okay, but when people get addicted to smoking or alcoholism, that is when it is considered to be bad. So, what is addiction? Especially in smoking, if a person smokes within 30 minutes of getting up, then they are addicted. If they smoke automatically without thinking about smoking, then they are addicted. That is, they don't even know when they put the cigarette in the mouth. It becomes a part of their life. They don't even think about that. Okay, so that is addiction. Then if they have just finished one cigarette and then light another cigarette, then that means they are addicted to it, because they are chain smokers. Then they feel that each time they hold a cigarette and light it or smoke it, they enjoy the act. Okay, so they find pleasure in smoking. So that means they are addicted to smoking. Then for the people who smoke, if it becomes a part of their life, just like drinking tea or coffee or talking on the phone, and then as part of their life they smoke also, then that means they are addicted. So let us see, why do people smoke? What makes these people smoke? Cigarettes have nicotine in it. Okay, what do cigarettes have? It has tobacco, and tobacco has nicotine. Nicotine is a stimulant. So when you smoke, that nicotine goes to the brain. So as soon as it goes to the brain, it activates the brain. So people feel that they are very alert and active. And it goes to the heart also. The heart starts beating faster. The brain is activated. So there are some mood enhancers which are released. So it is just like any other drug, which actually causes the person to feel a high feeling, as if they are more active and more this thing. So most people enjoy the smoking because it gives a pleasurable feeling for them, mainly because of the nicotine in it. People also get addicted to coffee sometimes. Coffee has got something called as caffeine. So that caffeine also stimulates the brain, but that is to a very less extent. But nicotine stimulates the brain to a large extent. So this is the reason why people smoke, and people get addicted to smoke. Once they are used to this feeling of pleasure and the brain getting activated because of the nicotine, then they are not able to stop it, because it is like a drug which has slowly poisoned the brain. So when they try stopping, then they get withdrawal symptoms. Let us see what is withdrawal symptoms later. Before that, let us see what is social smoking. Okay, social smoking is very common. There are a lot of researches done on social smoking. Some people smoke alone, but some people smoke especially with friends, when they meet together, when they get together, or having a party, something like that. So this is social smoking. And most of the cigarette companies know that people smoke when they get into a group, so they advertise their product based on that activity. So daily people smoke alone, but social smoking is when they get together as a group. So this happens mainly in college students and workers, because they all want to be seen as part of the same group. What is peer pressure? Peer pressure means, suppose one group of college students are there, and the people who are rich in that group, they start smoking. Then the other people feel that if they also smoke, they'll be considered to be part of that rich group. So they, even though they don't have money, even though they're not interested in smoking, just to make sure that they are part of that group, they start smoking. That is peer pressure. Same way people in western countries smoke in parties, in bars, in nightclubs. So all these places they smoke, and when people get stressed they smoke. So these are the things which are called as social smoking. So what happens when people smoke? What are the problems that can occur in the body? There are so many health problems that can occur. The first thing is the lung diseases that can be caused. That includes chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Okay, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Emphysema is one disease where there is pus in the lungs, and bronchitis is inflammation of the lungs. So these are the common problems, and if they keep smoking, then there is chance of lung cancer. Okay, lung cancer, first COPD, emphysema, bronchitis, these will occur. In some people directly lung cancer can occur. If a person already has an asthma, then the smoke of tobacco can make it worse, and these people are more likely to die from diseases like chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. And cancer, we think that smoking causes only lung cancer, but actually it can cause bladder cancer, larynx cancer, blood cancer, liver cancer, cervix cancer. So many different kinds of cancers it can cause, and the risk of getting cancer in smokers is very high. And smoking harms all the other organs of the person's body. So many parts of the body. The person can get stroke, and he can get heart attack. It increases the risk of the person getting heart attack, stroke, blood pressure. All the risk is increased. Okay, and smoking in women causes delay in pregnancy. If the woman who is smoking wants to get pregnant, the chances are lesser. And even if the woman gets pregnant, then the child which is born is preterm. That is, before 9 months the child is born. Sometimes the child is stillbirth, which means it dies before the birth. In the mother's womb itself, the child dies. The child may be of low birth weight. Even after the child is born, the child can suffer from sudden infant death syndrome, which means suddenly the child dies without any reason. The child can also have orofacial cleft. That is, the lips, there is cleft lip. Okay, so these are the problems that can happen. And men who smoke, the chances of them actually being potent is very less. That is, they become impotent. They are not able to have they are not able to make a woman pregnant. So because their sperm is affected and their fertility is affected. Smoking can also affect the bone. So any person who is smoking continuously, the bones can become weak, and there is a risk of fracture. Smoking affects the teeth and the gums, which can cause problems of the teeth. Then eye problems can occur. There is an eye problem called macular degeneration, which leads to poor eyesight, so that can occur. And type 2 diabetes can occur in smoking. People who smoke, they are at higher risk of 40% to get diabetes. Then it causes defects in the immunity. So your immunity is down, and you can get any diseases. Like, for example, coronavirus, it affects more people who have immunity and such diseases. So smoking, if a person is a smoker, they are at high risk to get severe problems due to coronavirus. And it can also lead to rheumatoid arthritis. So in fact, the smoking can cause damage to so many different parts of your body. It can cause very serious problems which lead to death. So smoking is a very serious problem, and because it's very easy to buy cigarettes, and it takes only 2 minutes to smoke, and it doesn't cost much, a lot of people are addicted to smoking. And one more important thing is passive smoking or second-hand smoking. What is this? Even if you are not a smoker, if you are in the same house as a smoker, for example, if your father is a smoker, then if you stay in the same house, that means when he is smoking, then you live in the same house, that smoke can affect you. So you are getting second hand smoke or passive smoke. Even though as a person we don't smoke, because of other person who smokes, we suffer from the same diseases. It may not be within the family, also within a group of friends living together. So if the friend is smoking, or if the husband and wife, the husband is smoking or the wife is smoking, the non-smokers in the family are affected because of the smoke which is present in the house. This can lead to same problems that a smoker gets. All the diseases that a smoker is getting, the same problems this non-smoker can also get, because the smoke is going into their own lungs also. And mainly the children and family members of smokers are the people who are affected. So we think that a smoker will smoke and the smoke is going into his lungs, the other people are not inhaling, but actually the smoke which is present in the house or in the building, so it gets inside, and that can also lead to same problem, health problems. So I already told you withdrawal symptoms. When a person is told to stop suddenly, or he tries to give up smoking, then he gets withdrawal symptoms. So what are these withdrawal symptoms? Withdrawal symptoms are physical and mental symptoms. The body has some symptoms and the mind has some symptoms. When the person stops taking it is for alcohol, it is for smoking, it is for drugs. When a person stops taking alcohol, when a person stops taking smoke, when a person stops taking a particular drug, then they feel these withdrawal symptoms. So what happens when a person stops nicotine? The person has irritability, then they are frustrated, they get angry, there is increased appetite. In some people there is decreased appetite. Then the person has a lot of tremors, that means the hands start shivering and shaking. Then the person goes into depression, then sleeplessness, anxiety, the person is not able to concentrate, and they find difficulty in feeling pleasure because they are always thinking of smoking or drinking, and they suffer a lot. And some people even commit suicide because they are not able to get that drug or get that smoke. So these are the serious problems. So the best way to overcome these withdrawal symptoms is to give symptomatic treatment. That is, whatever problems they are facing, we try to overcome that by giving some sedative or giving counseling, telling them to go slow. And also, if a person wants to voluntarily stop drugs or smoking, we tell them to slowly, gradually reduce and stop the smoking or alcoholism. So this is about smoking. So next we come to alcoholism. Alcoholism is a term which was used, but now the other term which is used is alcohol use disorder, because it's a medical problem. Alcoholism is like a social problem. People who drink are called alcoholics. So when it becomes a disorder, there are so many people who drink, but all of them do not have problems because of drinking. So when it becomes a problem, it is called alcohol use disorder. So the other words for alcohol use disorder or alcoholism is alcohol abuse and alcohol dependence. The person is dependent on alcohol. So what is alcohol dependence? When a person drinks so much that the person depends on alcohol or is addicted to alcohol, it is called alcohol use disorder. So for that person who drinks, nothing in this world is important, but only the drink is important. That is why in many poor families where the man is addicted, we listen to the woman in the house saying that the male, from morning till evening, they are drinking. They come and beat the wife, take the money from the wife and go and drink, because their whole life revolves around drinking. They do not have a family life, they do not have a social life. The whole day they are under the influence of drinking. So that is alcohol use disorder. So there are so many other complications which occur also. So initially in the society, it destroys the family, destroys the person's life, and the person does not have family life. He doesn't get time to talk to the family because they are more interested in drinking and getting the feeling of drinking. So what causes alcoholism? We saw that when smokers, the nicotine is the one which causes the addiction. The alcohol use disorder is still unknown, because there is not a particular thing like nicotine in alcohol, but generally a person who drinks, they get a feeling of high, because the alcohol goes to the brain and stimulates it, and the person gets a pleasurable feeling of being on a high. So this causes the person to keep drinking again and again. What happens is, when a person starts with a small drink, they get a feeling of pleasure, but slowly as they get addicted, they have to drink more and more to get the same kind of feeling. So soon the person will be drinking too much, and then only they'll get the pleasurable feeling. And when they drink too much, it affects the various organs in the body. So let us see what are the risk factors. The risk factors are people who drink a lot without control. Then people whose parents suffer from alcohol use disorder. So the child is seeing the parents, and slowly the child will also start drinking. Then people who suffer from mental problems such as depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, so they are used to drinking a lot. And in youngsters, because of peer pressure, I already told you how smoking is caused by peer pressure, same alcoholism was also caused by peer pressure. Then people with low self-esteem, who experience high level of stress, they also start drinking alcohol to overcome these problems. Then if they live in a family where alcohol is common and accepted, some communities and some cultures it is common. We see that in Goa there are so many alcohol shops which are open, and people, it's part of the culture, so they are at high risk of getting this disorder. And when a family member is suffering from alcohol use disorder, then relatives who are used to seeing that person may try out alcohol, and slowly they also get addicted. So what are the symptoms of alcohol use disorder? The main symptoms are that people will have change in behavior. So they will start drinking alone, they will not have a social life, they will not talk to other people, and they will have a high level of anger, and they will also have violent behavior. So they'll fight with the family, they'll start beating the children or the wife, so that kind of behavior. And some of them will not eat properly because they are used to drinking, so only drinks will go inside, but food they are not given priority, and they will neglect their personal hygiene, they will not take baths. Slowly they will stop doing their personal activities, and they will stop going to work, they'll stop going to educational institutions, and the whole day they will be thinking of drinking and trying to drink at whenever there is possibility. And they will try to take money from the family if they are not earning, and they will start drinking. And if a person drinks a lot, finally they are so addicted that when they give up, they will have withdrawal symptoms. When the person wants to stop drinking, they will have withdrawal symptoms. Withdrawal symptoms, I already told you, tremors or involuntary shaking of the hands. You will see people who hand shake, sometimes it's because of withdrawal symptoms. Then they will have memory loss, they will not remember what happened the previous night. So that kind of memory loss happens. And they can also get dehydration or cirrhosis. Cirrhosis is bleeding of the liver. The liver starts bleeding, and slowly the liver gets completely damaged, and the person can die. There are also other problems which can occur. They have stroke, hypertension. So these are also problems which can occur because of alcoholism. So let us see what are the short-term health effects and long-term health effects of alcoholism. Short-term effects: immediately after drinking, the person, if he is driving, then they can have accident. A lot of people who drink and then they go for a swim, they drown in the water. And sometimes if they are in a high-rise building, they fall and die. So these are the things, because they are not conscious of what they are doing, they get involved in such accidents. Then people who drink, they also get involved in violence. So they get very angry, they fight with their family members or friends and known people, and sometimes it results in suicide or murder and sexual assault. So these kind of things can happen. And if they are drunk too much, especially wrong kind of drinks, then it becomes alcohol poisoning. They will have risky sexual behavior. So when they do not use condoms when they are having sexual partners, so this leads to sexually transmitted diseases, even HIV, AIDS. Then women who drink, there is a high risk of miscarriage, that is abortion, or the stillbirth, that is the child is born when the child is born itself, the child is dead. So these are the problems that can occur in men and women who drink a lot. What are the long term health risks? There are many long term health risks also. For example, high blood pressure, heart attacks, heart disease, other diseases, stroke, that is brain, the blood going to the brain gets blocked, or there is bleeding in the brain. Then liver problem is very common. We already talked about cirrhosis or bleeding in the liver. Digestive problems can occur. Cancers of the breast, mouth, throat, esophagus, liver and colon can occur. The immune system becomes weak, so the chance of getting other opportunistic diseases is very high. And then the person gets dementia, that is they forgetting things, memory loss, and poor performance in the workplace, school or college. Then mental health problems like depression and anxiety, because they are worried much about the next drink, whether they'll have money to drink, when they are going to drink, so that long depression and anxiety is present. They are not able to do productive work, they'll have family problems and loss of job, and they will depend on alcohol, and these are the long term health risks. So how can you overcome alcoholism is by counseling the person and joining the person in a de-addiction center, and if the person is suffering from withdrawal symptoms, to try and overcome the withdrawal symptoms. So that is about alcoholism. The last topic for this chapter is HIV/AIDS. So there are two questions which are commonly occurring in your question paper. One is, what is the difference between HIV and AIDS? The other is, what are the about HIV/AIDS you have to write. The other is epidemiological factors of HIV/AIDS. The epidemiological factors I'll tell in the next chapter because it deals with epidemiology, but here we'll just see what is the disease, what is HIV and what is AIDS. The first thing you should know is HIV is different from AIDS. A lot of people think HIV is the same as AIDS. Okay, what is HIV? HIV is human immunodeficiency virus. Okay, HIV is human immunodeficiency virus, which I will when I give the notes I will type it and give. So HIV is nothing but a virus. We are seeing the coronavirus is a virus, something like that, a similar virus. This virus was first many years back. It was in an animal, just like the coronavirus, and from animal it came to the humans. Okay, so what this virus does is it affects your immune system. You should understand about immunity. Immunity is present in everybody's body and it prevents us from getting diseases. Our body is strong because of the immune systems and it prevents diseases from occurring. So this virus affects that immune system, and our immune system is like the army of the country. You know, India has an army. Why is India safe? Because of the army. If any foreigner comes to the India to fight with us, then the army people will chase them away. Same way, our immunity is like the army of the body, and if any bacteria or virus gets inside the body, the immune system fights against the bacteria and kills it. So our body is protected from infections and diseases. But what does HIV do? HIV itself kills the immune system of the body. So when HIV affects the immune system of the body, that means the army inside our own body, each person's army of the body is killed. So any infection can occur easily. So there are CD4 cells or T cells, which are the immune cells. So HIV kills all the CD4 cells, and that leads to various kind of infections and cancers from occurring in our human body. I hope you understood. The army of our body is the immune system. Okay, it prevents any bacteria or fungus from growing in our body. So HIV is a virus which kills the body's defense, which is the immune system. So any infection can easily affect the person who is suffering from HIV. That leads to other diseases. Okay, so HIV is transmitted through body fluids. What are the body fluids? The fluids like blood, semen, vaginal fluid, breast milk, these are body fluids. So HIV spreads like this. It is not like coronavirus which spreads through the air. Okay, some viruses spreads through water. and some viruses spread like when person touches, but HIV does not spread like that. It spreads only through the body fluids. So that is a safety mechanism. So if you do not come in contact with another person's body fluids, you are safe from HIV. So eating on the same plate, being with them, playing with them, touching them does not cause HIV to spread. So HIV is a lifelong problem. There is no cure for HIV. There is no cure for HIV. Okay, only treatment, symptomatic treatment is there for HIV, but there is no cure. Just like coronavirus, the scientists are trying to find medicines or vaccines. People are trying to find medicines and vaccines for HIV also to overcome this problem. There is one treatment which is called antiretroviral therapy. It is also called HAART. Okay, antiretroviral therapy. So this is helpful in preventing the person who is suffering from HIV in getting AIDS. Okay, so what happens if a person who is suffering from HIV does not get treatment? Then the person gets something called as AIDS. What is AIDS? Acquired immune deficiency syndrome. Okay, acquired immune deficiency syndrome. So I already told you, when HIV virus is in your body, your immune system is down. So if you do not take treatment, the immune system becomes very worse, slowly it deteriorates. Finally, your immune system is completely deficient. Then you become an AIDS patient. That is acquired immune deficiency syndrome. It is an acquired immune deficiency syndrome. So when a person who is suffering from HIV gets AIDS, that means the person is not able to prevent any diseases from occurring. All the immune system of the body is gone. The person is prone to getting other diseases like cancer, TB, these things which can kill the person. So to prevent this, antiretroviral therapy is given that will increase the life expectancy of the person and prevent AIDS from happening. Okay, so let us see what is AIDS. AIDS is a disease that can develop in the people with HIV. So this is all what you have to write when you write about difference between HIV and AIDS. So you have to write about HIV, you have to write about AIDS. So first HIV occurs and then AIDS occurs, because there is, if the person does not take antiretroviral therapy, then AIDS can occur. So AIDS is the advanced stage of HIV. When a person does not take treatment for HIV, they develop AIDS. Okay, so that is the problem which occurs in this thing. A person who is diagnosed with AIDS, then they have a risk of getting opportunistic infection. That is, any bacteria, virus that enters a person's body, it can cause diseases like cancer. Okay, and usually untreated HIV, the person can become an AIDS patient within 10 years, within a decade, which is 10 years. And just like HIV, there is for which antiretroviral therapy is there, AIDS has no treatment and no cure. So once a person is starting from suffering from AIDS, that means the person will die within 3 years, because they will get some disease or other, because the immune system is very down, and they will die because of that illness. They will develop so many complications. Their nervous system will be down, their lungs will not work properly, and they can get so many diseases. The list of diseases that an AIDS patient can get are given here. The person can get pneumonia, tuberculosis, oral thrush, which is a fungal infection of the mouth, then herpes virus infection, meningitis, which is inflammation of the brain, then a brain infection caused by a parasite called toxoplasmosis, intestinal parasite called cryptosporidosis, which can cause damage of the intestinal system. Then so many different types of carcinoma. Examples are Kaposi's carcinoma and lymphoma. These are all very common in people who suffer from AIDS, because these are all caused by pathogens. These are all caused by bacteria, virus, fungi, parasites. So a person with HIV, if not treated with the antiretroviral therapy, they can have they can start suffering from AIDS, and if they are suffering from AIDS, that means their immunity is so down, they will get all these opportunistic infections, and the person can die within 3 years of getting AIDS. So what are the treatments available? There is only one treatment which is available, which is called highly active antiretroviral therapy. I was telling antiretroviral therapy. You can also call it highly active antiretroviral therapy, and the first alphabets of these 4 words, HAART, okay, form the heart. Okay, HAART. So this is the treatment for HIV. A person who is infected with the HIV virus is given heart treatment, highly active antiretroviral therapy. This will prevent the person from getting AIDS. Okay, so but it is a treatment that has to be taken regularly, on a regular basis. Okay, so let us see what is pre-exposure prophylaxis and post-exposure prophylaxis. This is something that you have to understand. Prophylaxis means some medicine which is given as a preventive medicine. Okay, so pre-exposure means before you get exposed to the HIV virus, you are taking treatment. For example, if you are a health worker who is going to get blood transfusion, and or if you think that you are going to get HIV, exposed to HIV, then before you get exposed itself, you should take this treatment. For example, a husband and wife, the husband is suffering from HIV, the wife wants to get pregnant, so they have sexual relationship, but the wife wants to prevent the HIV from affecting her, so then she takes the pre-exposure prophylaxis. So this reduces the chance of getting HIV by 90%, but make sure the 10% chance of getting HIV is there. So some people can get HIV even after they get pre-exposure prophylaxis. Okay, so that is pre-exposure prophylaxis. What is post-exposure prophylaxis? Post-exposure prophylaxis means if you have already exposed to HIV virus, for example, if a drunk person goes and has a sexual relationship with a prostitute, that means he doesn't know whether the woman was affected with HIV. The next morning he realizes that he was drunk the previous day, so he wants to just take a prophylactic medication, then he can take post-exposure prophylaxis. Same way, a health worker, a lab technician, the lab technician is taking blood from a HIV positive patient. Suddenly the injection which the person was using, it pierces the health worker's hand or some place. So that means the risk of getting HIV for this health worker who was taking blood from the patient is high. So that health worker is given post-exposure prophylaxis, and this can also reduce the chance of getting HIV by 90%. And post-exposure prophylaxis should be taken within 72 hours after being exposed to HIV. Then only it can be useful. Post-exposure prophylaxis and post-exposure prophylaxis? Post-exposure prophylaxis is short-term treatment for those who have already been exposed to HIV, and it has to be taken within 72 hours. Okay, pre-exposure prophylaxis is an ongoing daily pill for people who may be exposed to HIV in the future. So to prevent them from getting exposed to the HIV virus, they are taking medicines on a regular basis. But post-exposure prophylaxis is a short-term treatment, and it has to be taken within 72 hours after being exposed to possible HIV virus exposure. Then how can we prevent HIV? We can prevent HIV by getting tested for HIV. Okay, so in case we are exposed to the virus, by getting tested, we will try to take adequate precautions. Okay, then we have to choose less risky sexual behavior. The common ways in which the HIV virus is transmitted is the body fluids. So one common way in which body fluids get exchanged is through the sexual relationship. So if one partner is affected by HIV, then the other person has to take precautions, like they have to use condoms during sexual relationship. That is the 100% safe method. If they use a good condom, that is the best method. Otherwise, to avoid having sexual relationship with the affected person is the next best method. Okay, so this is the way in which the HIV can be prevented. That is why a lot of health education campaigns are focused on preventive aspects of and good sexual health behavior, less risky sexual health behavior, because this is one common problem. Then the counseling is given to people to avoid having multiple sex partners, because if they are living in a family between husband and wife, if both of them do not have HIV, then there is no way they can suffer from HIV. So they should avoid having multiple sexual partners, and that will prevent HIV from affecting any of these people. Then in case a person is exposed to HIV virus, then post exposure prophylaxis should be given. In case the person is going to work with a person with HIV and there is a risk of getting HIV in the future, then pre exposure prophylaxis has to be taken. The other way in which the HIV can spread from one person to another is through using infected needles. So a person who has already HIV, that person's blood, that person getting injected with drugs, the same injection is used by another person, then they can get HIV. So drug addicts who use needles to inject drugs, they are told to avoid using same needle multiple times. And even in hospitals, we use disposable syringes so that one person's injection is not used for another person. Same way, when there is blood transfusion, the blood is always checked to see if it is having HIV before it is transfused to another person. So these are the ways in which HIV can be prevented. All the other aspects of HIV, the demographic factors and other aspects of HIV, we will see in the epidemiological factors of AIDS, which is coming in the next chapter as part of epidemiology. So with this, we have completed this chapter. See you in the next chapter. Thank you.